Okay, hello again, ACE General Paper. So hopefully you have gone through and looked at the introduction review that I just did before. You went through the activities and now you're confident on how to write a great introduction for your essay. Now we're going to move on to body paragraphs. So just something to keep in mind, we're focusing here on an argumentative essay. Remember, the real key difference between informative and argumentative is one, in an argumentative, you are going to take a stance on a two-sided or many-sided issue. So you should have a claim that really clearly goes in one direction. With that, you include an extra paragraph, which is that counterclaim and rebuttal. In an informative, you will simply be informing them on something using evidence. You're still making a claim, essentially, and your claim is that you are informing them of the thing. That is the claim. So it's not a one side or the other. So now we're going to take a look at the body paragraph of the same essay that we looked at for the introduction. We'll look at a couple of different parts of it. So let me share my screen again for you. Here we go. So, remembering their claim, just come back to it. A popular vote should instead be utilized to fairly choose the people of power in this country and would better represent voters' opinions. So that is, they're going to try and persuade us to switch from the Electoral College to the popular vote. So, theirs is a little different than what I taught you. But again, writing is not an exact science. There are some differences that can be made there, but when in doubt, just go with the formula because it's the easiest. So remember, we always start our body paragraphs with topic sentences that align with our thesis statements. So they start with, in implementing the Electoral College, most states' votes either go to one candidate or the other, leading to candidates to only campaign in swing states. So they started with their quote from their source. It does still align with their thesis statement in that they're showing a downfall of the Electoral College. So again, their claim is that we should switch to the popular vote instead of the Electoral College. So they're showing a downfall of the Electoral College in that the campaigns focus on swing states. And so here's where their topic sentence kind of starts. It's their explanation. This may not seem like much of a problem, but consider this. A swing state such as Florida with over 20 electoral votes could go to a candidate who could have won by a 51 to 49% margin. This means that all voters who voted for the other candidate no longer count, making the Electoral College ineffective at voicing the opinions of the populace. So they're using this swing state argument that there are few states that'll decide the elections, and there are small margins that will decide those swing states to prove their point that the Electoral College is ineffective in choosing the leader. So notice also something, they gave this quote at the beginning, and now they're spending not one, not two, three, four, and continues on to almost 5 sentences in just explaining that one quote. So it's their elaboration that's linking the quote to their overall. So they continue on with, this means that all votes should be all voters who voted for the other candidate no longer count, making the Electoral College ineffective at voicing the opinions of the populace. Also, transition words, those are key. Make sure you include those. Many states may not even see the future president at all, like in the 2000 election where the candidates did not even go once and talk in 17 states. So they're continuing on this idea that swing states are where the candidates will focus, and that creates a system in which it's unequal and unfair for all states. So they include this fact about the 17 states that were not even visited by electoral candidates. Now they're going to elaborate more on that evidence. This leads to a poor democracy because voters in these states will surmise that if the president will not bother to visit their state, they shouldn't bother on making an educated decision when voting, or may choose to not vote at all. In an election by popular vote, presidents will have a greater strides in getting the people's votes, and citizens will then have more of an impetus in learning about their country's government and politics. So notice they wrapped up their first body paragraph by linking everything back to that claim. So they put it all together here. We just talked about the downfalls, the pitfalls of the Electoral College and what it creates in the voters in the swing states. And now they link it right back to why we should have that popular vote as our decider. So now we move on to our next body paragraph. With the Electoral College, there's also the risk that electors may not necessarily vote for candidates that people want as president. So they started with the traditional topic sentence as opposed to the first one where they gave you the evidence first. And now they're going to move into the evidence that proves that topic sentence. In the Electoral College, voters vote not for the president, but for a state of electors who in turn elect the president. Notice the MLA citation. Again, that is what gets you to the top levels of your evidence and elaboration using your MLA citation. So that parenthetical with the last name of the author, page number if you have it, and parentheses. Period goes after all of it. These electors may not necessarily vote for what candidate voters want most as president and could do what they might feel is the best decision. However, ooh, look at that transition. This is not always what the majority of voters want, and a president could end up with a poor president. So they gave a quote about what happens with the Electoral College, and they explained the pitfalls of that in their elaboration. And then they continue on. In addition, again, fantastic transitions. Most voters know very little about how these electors are chosen and are not in control of who their state's electors are. In a way, this system is a bit corrupt because the voters don't have the final say of the president. So again, they wrap up with a nice conclusion to their topic or to their overall claim in this body paragraph and linking it back to why we should switch to the popular vote as opposed to electoral college. They did 3 body paragraphs. Again, 2 should be your minimum. 3, if you can get there, do it. Also notice they didn't put 2 pieces of evidence in each paragraph. They, however, created more paragraphs. So they have the 3 body paragraphs here, focusing on different sections. So if you are, which I don't recommend it, always try and get 2 sources in each paragraph to really show that the argument is well balanced in evidence. But if you are doing quotes at a time, you make sure you have more paragraphs in support. So they continue with their 3rd body paragraph. Again, fantastic transition. I know that it's going to be in alignment with their argument because they state, in addition, a tie is likely in an electoral vote because of swing states, which has the potential to lead to a disaster. So now they're talking, yes, again, about swing states, which they spoke about up here, but they're now talking about it in regards to what happens if there's a tie. If 2 candidates receive the same number of electoral votes and a tie in an election, the House of Representatives then chooses the president while the Senate chooses the vice president. But their votes may not show who voters want as president, seeing that voters often vote on one party for president while the other votes other for their representatives. So they gave another quote, they summarized another piece of evidence from the source, MLA citation. Now they're going to elaborate. The vote for a president is distributed unevenly, and states with many voters will only be represented by one vote. This could lead to the House of Representatives choosing a president that is only liked by a small population, and this cannot easily be undone. And now they're going to wrap up by saying swing states are the only thing that can cause or prevent a tie in elections, and a tie has almost occurred in 1976 in Hawaii and 1968 in Ohio. So they then kind of relate their claim to an actuality that happens. Again, bringing in evidence to support that. So key things to remember, start your body paragraphs with a topic sentence that clearly aligns to your claim. Incorporate that evidence using MLA citation. Use your transition statements effectively, and always elaborate on that evidence and how that evidence relates to the claim. That is the key. And then end each body paragraph with some type of transition or conclusion that wraps up that body and gets you ready for the next one. So it just doesn't seem like a long stream of consciousness. It shows a breakup in the argument and clearly leads you to the next part of your argument. All right, now let me stop sharing. Go ahead and complete the assignments for this section of your work today. So this will be your body paragraphs, complete the assignments and tasks to make sure you understand it, and then you can move on to the next video. Stop recording. Can't find the button. There we go.